Hello to you all. My name is Hans Looyen. I'm EMF trustee and a former winner. So how great is it to be here in Bilbao with all of you? Thanks, Euskararen and Etxea, it's been said before. As a winner, you proved to us, the entire European museum community, the impact of innovative museums that resonate strongly as social, humanitarian, as sustainable partners and for our values. We must never underestimate the power of museums. Today I will, perhaps again, reintroduce you to another winner, the Museo from Chaux de Fonds, Switzerland, which received the Museum Prize for Environmental Sustainability last year at the EMYA2026 stock. We are all aware of the growing and alarmingly so effects of climate change, of the destruction of our natural environment and decreasing ecosystems, some of them on the verge of collapse. Museums are, of course, all about preservation, conservation, about keeping alive our heritage. These characteristics are ingrained in our very existence. We, the museum community, carry therefore a great responsibility as well. We play a vital role not only in our own conducts as institutions and individuals, but even more so to raise awareness, offer perspectives, help and enable communities around us to navigate this future. Help and formulate and support agendas and strategies to reduce and ward off these growing threats. As said this morning, we need to be part of the ecosystem of action. This year, the theme of EMYA is Disrupting the Museum, Inclusion for All. Let us ponder on that for a while. Disruption, check. Inclusion, question mark. Does this include ecosystems, rivers, mountains, our living planet? Disruptive global warmth must be prevented. At the same time, the enormous inequality between poor and rich within and between countries must be largely determined and eliminated. This is the only way I see to generate truly sustainable economic systems for all. We need to seriously make work to achieve an economy that stays within the Earth's carrying capacity while still offering well-being for all. We must pursue a regenerative economy instead of extraction of our resources, overconsumption and throwaway models, and actually apply sustainability in everything we do. Museums must play their part to oppose this extractivism, difficult word. We need to adopt regenerative models, as said, to allow regrowth, renewal and cycles of reuse. Sustainability is possible, but we must act now. There is hope. Think of the ozone layer and how we stopped it from growing. That was years ago, so it's still a model, but we need to act now. Museo won the Museum Prize for Environmental Sustainability as recognition as a museum that demonstrates commitment to sustainability and environmental surroundings at large. As they have let us know, this sparked a chain reaction within their organization and beyond. Media attention, record attendance, renewed team energy, and a surge of local pride. Now we will hear all about the journey since. Let us listen to Museo Director Xavier Huther and learn. In their words, what really happens after a cultural and scientific venue wins a prestigious international award. Xavier, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaisho, wow, Ismi was right. You're all amazing. Cool. So I need to pimp up my outfit. Oh, it's maybe longer than I expect, but I found something in the streets. Wow. Oops. Nothing happens. Quite. So let's start with the video of last year. One year ago in Białystok in Poland, Muzo was called onto the stage to receive the Marvet Museum Prize. The applause lasted few seconds. The photographs were taken, the ceremony moved on. And to be honest, that is how a museum award often feels when you're standing on the stage. The moment is intense, you are overwhelmed by emotion. You receive congratulations from colleagues from across Europe. You celebrate with EMYA family, and then, quickly, you return home. At that point, you have absolutely no idea what the award will actually change. We certainly did not. We were proud, we were grateful, but we thought the award was mainly a recognition of the work already accomplished. What we discovered during the following months was that the award was not only looking backwards, it also opening new possibilities to the future. Because awards are not only about recognition, they change how others see you, and sometimes they change how you see yourself. So today, 1 year later, I would like to answer a simple question. What really happens after a museum wins an award? The first consequence was immediate: visibility. Suddenly, journalists wanted interviews now, the same evening. Media that had never spoken about us became interested. Our social media became more active. People who had never heard about us discovered Muzo. The award amplified our story, not because we changed the message, but because more people started listening. And this is the first lesson we learn. Awards are not just recognition, they are communication accelerators. Because every museum has story worth telling. Every museum has expertise. Every museum creates value for society. But sometimes, these stories struggle to reach beyond our usual audiences. An international award acts as a megaphone. It increases attention. It creates curiosity. It gives visibility to work that may already have been exceptional, but was not yet widely known. For us, the award did not change who we were. It changed how visible we became. Then came the visitors. Yes, we experienced record attendance. New audience entered the museum. Some came because they had heard about the award. Others simply became curious. The award acted as a signal. It told people this museum is worth discovering. And that signal matters because most visitors cannot evaluate a museum before entering it. No, they do not know the quality of the exhibition. They do not know the commitment of the staff. They do not know the richness of the collection. They make decisions based on trust. Recognition creates trust, and trust creates curiosity. For many visitors, the award became a reason to take the first step through our doors. Once inside, they discovered the museum itself. The award attracted attention. The museum experience created the relationship. And that distinction is important. Awards may bring visitors once. Only museums can make them want to come back. But the strongest impact was perhaps not external. It was internal. As you know, museum teams spend years working on projects that often remain invisible. Curators, educators, animal keepers, technicians, collection managers, front of house staff, volunteers, people who dedicate an enormous amount of energy, creativity, and expertise to making museum work every day. Much of that effort is rarely seen. Visitors experience the result. They do not always see the countless hours behind it. Receiving an international award suddenly shines a light on that invisible work. The award validated years of commitment. It creates energy. It strengthened cohesion. And it sent a simple message to your staff. What you do matters, not only to your visitors, not only to your institution, but to the wider museum community. For many members of our team, that recognition was deeply meaningful, not because of personal achievement, but because it acknowledged a collective effort. And I believe this is something all museum professionals understand. Of course, museums are built by people. Building matters, collection matters, exhibitions matter. But ultimately, museums succeed because people believe in their mission. Recognition is not only about institution, it's about people. A consequence we had not fully anticipated was the impact on partnerships. International recognition creates credibility. It reassures potential partners. It demonstrates professional standards. It signals that an institution is trusted by its peers. During the year following the award, we experienced new opportunities of collaboration. One of the most visible example is the development of our new temporary exhibition in collaboration with the Tropical Aquarium of the Palais de la Porte de Dorée at Paris. Of course, such collaboration do not happen because of a trophy. They happen because of shared ambition, professional relationships, mutual respect, year of work. But international recognition helps create the condition for trust. Before receiving the award, we already had ambition, we already had ideas, we already had contacts. What changed was not our ambition. What changed was the confidence others had in our institution. Recognition acts as a signal. It tells potential partners, this museum is serious, this museum is innovative, this museum can deliver. Looking back, I would say that the most valuable consequence of the award was not visibility itself. It was credibility, and credibility transforms short moment of recognition into long-term opportunities. Awards do not create partnership, they facilitate them. They open doors. Awards do not build network. They make network easier to build. Yes, the story is good, but the story is not entirely positive, because we also observe the paradox. Visitors understood the significance of the award. Museum professionals understood it. International partners understood it. Journalists understood it. But not always the people who decide cultural and financial priorities. And this is maybe one of the most important lessons we learn. International recognition does not automatically translate into political recognition or budget increase. Did you experience that? Yeah. The value of museum award is obvious inside the museum sector. It's not always obvious outside it. And maybe this should concern all of us. Because if museum professionals understand the value of awards, that is not enough. If visitors understand the value of the award, that is not enough. The people who shape cultural policy also need to understand what this distinction represents. EMYAs are not simply trophies. They are the judgment of peers from across Europe. If we fail to explain that, we miss an opportunity, not only to our own institution, but for the museum sector as a whole. Our next challenge is not to winning an award. Our next challenge is helping others understand what this award means. 1 year later, we clearly measure the impact of the Mavet Prize. More visibility, more visitors, greater team engagement, stronger community pride, new international collaboration, but perhaps the most important lesson is this. The award is not the end of a story. It's a beginning of a new one, a story about trust, about credibility, about people, and a story about the role that recognition can play in helping museums grow, connect, and inspire. Because recognition is not simple prize, it's evidence, evidence of quality, evidence of innovation, evidence of social impact. And if we want awards to create lasting value, we must help all understand what they represent. So 1 year later, when I think back to those few seconds on a stage in Białystok, I no longer remember only the applause. I think about everything that followed, because trophy shines for a moment. Visibility lasts for months. Partnerships can last for years. But the real challenge is making sure that the recognition becomes understanding. Panie I panowie, mesdames et messieurs, Jaun Andreak, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention and see you soon at Museo.
Hi, hello, good afternoon. My name is Michał Wiśniewski. I represent the board of EMYA, and I have this privilege to moderate the panel entitled Connecting Public Through the Senses. The topic of this year EMYA is Disrupting the Museum, Inclusion for All. This topic provokes the question, what to do to achieve such goal as make the museum disrupted and in order to include all of the invited guests, the new communities, the new visitors. To achieve such goals, one can go to ask the question about the human conditions, about the body and the way to experience the exhibition. We live today in the world that sometimes might be seen as overwhelmed by the sense of sight. Our eyes might be seen as the crucial element in experience the reality. But we have also some other opportunities to experience the existing world, to experience the other environments and connecting the people. So let us dive this afternoon into the world of, let's say, other platforms of experience. I have a great pleasure and honor to invite to the stage the speakers of this very panel. First, let me introduce Barbara Richter from Sensoria, the House of Fragrances and Flavors from Holzminden. Let me introduce Gert Souwijs from Museum St. John Hospital in Bruges. Let me introduce Alexander Jorl from the Samurai Museum in Berlin. And last but not least, let me welcome on the stage Stylianos Perzas from Galactica Arcos de las Salinas. It's time for the first presentation. The floor is yours.
Hoppala. All right, let's start. Fragrances, flavors, memories, emotions. Good afternoon, everybody. I said I'm the managing director of Sensoria, and we means my team, the city, and I am very proud to be here and to present our work here among peers. That means being nominated for everybody of us. We are already winners, yay. So when we think about museums, we usually think about objects, things we can see. At Sensoria, we focus on something totally different and something invisible, intangible, something that every human being experiences every day, smell and taste. So why Holzminden? And why create a house of fragrances and flavors? The story begins there, right in the city. In 1874, the world's first synthetic aroma substance, vanillin, vanilla, was produced in Holzminden. The town became the cradle of the fragrance and flavor industry. Today, one of the world's leading fragrance and flavor companies, Symrise, is still headquartered there. For the city, this was not only an industrial history to build this building, it was an invitation to create a museum dedicated to the senses that shaped the identity of an entire region. So, and the museum exists since September 2024, so it's quite young. And, and the challenge was, of course, fragrances and flavors. So how do you exhibit something invisible? How do you present smell without reducing it to chemistry? And how do you transform visitors from observers into participants, because you're dealing with the senses? And how do you create meaningful learning through sensory experience? These questions became the starting point of Sensoria. Smell is one of the strongest triggers of memory and emotion. A single scent can transport us back decades to a person, a place, a moment. So the main question was really, how can an exhibition engage with a sense most closely linked to memory and emotion? Well, the answer was Sensoria, a museum that begins with the senses. Visitors do not simply receive information. The museum experience has to be immersive, participatory, and multisensory. Okay. Oop. Okay. And experience comes before, in sensoria before information. In sensoria, we do not start with facts. We begin with experience. So we invite the guests first in an immersive room where they can smell a scent and unexpected sensory moment. Only then do the question emerge. Why do I like the smell? Why does it remind me of childhood? How are smell and taste connected? We start with emotion and enhance curiosity, and followed by knowledge. Curiosity and becomes the starting point of learning in our museum. So participation, every visitor becomes an explorer, is the main key. They smell. Sensoria offers more than 60 fragrances to discover. They interact, means visitors decide how deeply they want to dive into and explore the information provided on our interactive stations. They compare, for example, they compare products from the same category and discover how scents and flavors differ across cultures and markets. So if you think about body lotion or, body lotion, here in Europe we are more on a freshly sense, while in America is more coconut. So everything in every culture has its own signature. They decide, the visitors, as well, because we have a quiz challenge, means here it's a challenge where you can figure out how your senses are involved, because this quiz was developed by the University of Dresden after Corona. So most people lost their sense of smelling, and this test tells you how your smelling sense came back. So in this quiz we have this on display, and we have a huge fragrance organ, and on digital guidance, visitors compose their own eau de toilette. And they remember because historic products and familiar scents often trigger personal memories and stories. So if you look at detergent, for example, the smell has changed over 35, 40 years. And so it gives you a memory, how was the smell of my grandmother's clothes and how did it smell there? And so it evokes and revokes the memories. So, and access for everyone was, of course, really important. One of the most important facts is that smell creates access. Sensory interaction allows participation independent of language, educational background, or age. Smell has no mother tongue. People can engage immediately, without needing specialist knowledge, without needing to read first. This makes sensoria a particular inclusive learning environment. And it reminds us that museum can communicate in many languages, not only just in words. The impact is, as a high maintenance for us to run this museum because of smell which dissolves. Our visitors tell us whether we are succeeding. More than 96% would recommend sensoria for a visit. More than 91% rate our interactive stations positively, and more than 90% describe orientation throughout the museum as very good. What moves the most is not the statistics by our internal survey we run every day. It's when they come back and tell us a story about their childhood, about how they memorize grandparents, how they smell the vanilla pudding they cooked with them, and about forgotten memories that really suddenly return when they come in our house. about conversations that begin between generations and discovering, well, between generations, grandparents come with their grandchildren and they're telling, okay, this was back then there, this smelled like this. And so it's really a great conversation and it's a pleasure to listen to them and watching them, how they get excited about a memory they have almost forgotten and about discovering the world through a sense that never consciously explored before. But Sensoria is more than a museum. It's more than an exhibition as well. We host tastings, workshops, public talks, olfactory art projects we are putting on display, we're having concerts, and community events. Through special exhibitions and events, we enrich the museum experience beyond seeing. Visitors are invited to smell, hear, and feel. For this example, for the last exhibition, we have a food photographer in the house and his work, and he's well known in England, and we enriched his pictures by smell, the objects you see on the pictures in black box to feel, and the making of with sound and noises. So they are really invited to smell, hear, and feel. The impact of our first special exhibition reached beyond Sensoria, as far as I can say so far. Another museum already reached out and asked if they can have this special exhibition for their house. And, well, that makes us very proud, because then we can support this experience in another place. So Sensoria is a place for science, culture, dialogue, and community, because the entire exhibition was created by several points of view, by science, by chemists, by biologists, and we put all their knowledge on display. And what Sensoria teaches us is it's not about only smell and taste, it's about the possibilities of museums. Our experience has shown that participation can begin with the senses, that learning can begin with emotion. Museums can engage visitors in ways that are deeply personal and universally human. Museums are not only places to see, they are places to experience and to feel. In an increasingly digital world, Sensoria reminds us of something deeply human. We understand the world not through information, but through our senses. So feeling creates memories, and memory stays with us. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Geert and I'm very grateful to be here in this magnificent place. In fact, I feel a bit my heartbeat, but that's okay because it's about senses. And I will come back on this. Well, Museum St. John's Hospital is only one of the museums of Musea Brugge. That's the organization where I work for. Musea Brugge is the organization of city museums, municipal museums in Bruges. And here we see 6 of these locations. It's in totally 13 locations in the heart of this World Heritage City. Let's have a look at the building and the site of St. John's Hospital. St. John's Hospital is one of Europe's oldest preserved hospital buildings. The hospital building, which still stands today, dates back to the 13th century. This painting gives a good idea of how the hospital looked like in the inside. The hospital took care of everybody who couldn't afford to be cared for at home, which was the common practice. Also, the attic is well preserved, making it one of the oldest and most monumental roof structures in Europe. It's not only a building, It's an entire hospital site located in the heart of the historic city of Bruges. In the center of the photo, you see the 19th century hospital, which replaced the medieval hospital and remained the main hospital of Bruges until 1976. And for over 800 years, care has been provided here for both body and soul. Also preserved is his brother convent, which houses today, and since the 17th century, the pharmacy of the hospital. Let's have a look at the collection of the hospital, because the hospital is not an empty case. Not only the building is preserved, but also a wonderful collection of artworks and objects which belong to this site. Best known is the collection of the 7 works of the 15th century Flemish painter Hans Memling. And 4 of these 7 masterpieces were created specially for sisters and brothers of the hospital, and they have never left this place since the 15th century. Also, other artworks and objects are linked with the sisters and the brothers, and also the mission of the hospital. In 2023, the museum underwent a makeover. And what were the challenges involved in renewing the museum? First of all, trying to reveal the full potential of the historic building. When visitors entered the building, they thought they were in a church with its monumental arches, with this religious artwork. They didn't always realize they were in a hospital. We wanted to make the building again legible. Second, creating a consistent narrative linking architecture, collection, and the history of care. Third, reconnecting objects with their meaning and contemporary relevant. As I told, all the objects and artworks have a link with the hospital. But many of our visitors, very diverse visitors today, are not longer familiar with this visual language, with this Christian iconography. And we want the works to have the emotional and spiritual significance again that they once had. Then also creating an inclusive and engaging experience for all visitors. And last, renewing the reception and the importance, we're in a hospital, of hospitality. Oh, I didn't want to show this yet, because we didn't tackle these challenges alone, but together with the exhibition design studio Wandering. They're also in this place somewhere, Laurence, Jelke, yeah, there. Okay, and they helped us to find a new leading narrative or concept of the museum. And yeah, I showed you. It was a brainstorm session, and then we find Heartbeat. This tells everything. The history, the art collection, the social wall of St. John's Hospital. And throughout the exhibition, we want to appeal to and touch the heart of our visitors more than their minds, with artworks, compelling stories, and interactive experiences. But how to address and touch the heart of our visitors? We chose universal themes that everyone can relate to, but were also relevant for the medieval guests of the hospital and the people working there. And these central themes are hospitality, empathy, body care, soul care, art of dying, and farewell and mourning. Within every theme, we combined original objects and artworks, contemporary art, interactive experiences, and testimonies of caregivers today, and sometimes the experience is also enhanced by soundscapes. But I'm going to explain this with an example. In this section of the museum about empathy, we ask the visitors the question, can we, as an individual and as a society, welcome and open our hearts for everybody? And centerpiece in this place is this sculpture of the Australian artist Patricia Piccinini, created specifically for this place in the museum. Also, it's combined with the historical artworks and, here in front, also with testimonies of caregivers today, like this psychiatrist who treats homeless people with mental issues. And how does this interaction work? I'm going to quote a visitor from New York who really had it spot on. I visited Bruges for a day on a whim and stumbled across the museum while wandering around. I found it to be a fantastic, thought-provoking and touching experience. I'll admit, I cried. I really loved how the curation wove historical artifacts and modern art together to bring up timeless moral questions of who we care for and to whom we open our hearts. I thought the choice of the Pieta-style sculpture by Piccinini was very moving, in which our initial sense of revulsion of the other fades by watching someone else demonstrate empathy towards them. And it was very cool that I have that juxtaposed with the historical Good Samaritan, showing two radically different eras tackling the same moral issues. And this is why I love to do my job, because this was really a very touching email I got. And in another section of the museum, dedicated to the art of dying and saying the last farewell, we used the same principles, but we added a participatory installation, the Whispering Seed. And for this textile installation, people of Bruges have contributed clothes belonging to the loved ones who have passed away. And they have shared not only these tangible mementos, but also their stories about their deceased beloved ones and how they are coping with their loss. And you can listen to their stories while seated. I'm going a bit faster now because of course, Hans Memling, it was a major draw for visitors to St. John's Hospital. And for the new presentation, we not only make a separate section in the museums to give this the prominence and attention they deserve, but we also created the Closer to Memling experience in the attic. And this interactive audiovisual installation invites visitors, and especially children, to step closer to the artist and his works. But let's hear what our younger visitors have to say about this.
Toen ik de ruimte binnenkwam, vond ik het ook heel speciaal en mooi en leuk en cool. Ik vond het leukste spelletje waar je het verhaaltje kon maken met de stickers en zo. Want ik vond het bijzonder dat je als je op het kleine scherm dingetjes veranderde, dat het ook op het grote scherm kwam. Ik geef de beleving een 10 op 10. Ik vond het echt superleuk.
Okay, I hope this presentation gave a good idea of how the experience of a visit to Museum St. John's Hospital is. Thank you very much.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's always the best way to present the Samurai Museum after a hospital. Thank you for that. I'm Alexander Jöchel. I'm the director of the Samurai Museum Berlin. We are located in Berlin, Germany, in the center. And the Samurai Museum Berlin is not simply a museum about samurai. We are presenting around 1,000 items of the Peter Janssen collection and exploring a history of 1,000 years of the Japanese culture. It's a museum inspired by the values that made the samurai enduring global cultural icons. Through authenticity, innovation, and technology, these 7 virtues continue to inspire visitors from around the world. How the 7 virtues of samurai culture can shape our lives, or how these virtues also shape the Samurai Museum Berlin. Authenticity in a digital age. Original samurai artifacts from the heart of every experience. Digital technology enhances, but never replaces the authentic object. Research and scholarship ensure credibility and trust. Courage, reinventing the museum experience.
We challenge traditional museum expectations. Immersive technology transforms passive viewing into active discovery. Innovation allows us to reach new audiences. Here you can see a look into the Samurai Museum with the original No stage in the behind. Compassion, making culture accessible. Interactive experiences engage visitors of all ages. Complex history becomes understandable and evokes an emotional experience for visitors. Technology creates participation rather than observation. Respect, honoring heritage through innovation. Japanese culture is presented with accuracy and care. Historical traditions are preserved while using modern tools. Cultural exchange builds understanding between Japan and Europe while inspiring greater openness toward cultures around the world. Sincerity, honest storytelling. We move beyond myths and stereotypes, presenting history in a balanced and nuanced way that leads to genuine understanding. Human stories bring history to life. Digital media helps reveal complexity and context. Honor, excellence in every detail. Exceptional collection quality, the Peter Janssen collection. Outstanding exhibition design and visitor experience. Continuous commitment to improvement and excellence. Loyalty, commitment to community. Strong relationships with visitors and partners. Long-term investment in education and cultural exchange. A clear values-driven mission, fostering intercultural understanding through education, dialogue and critical engagement with history. This was our birthday party. You can see we have a lot of different events at the museum, and there are always different audiences because it's super interesting and important to us to talk to these different cultures, audiences into the city and in Berlin and Europe, of course. Finally, Asian values and cultural heritage provide guidance in an increasingly complex and fragmented world. Technology can strengthen cultural understanding and connect people across cultures. Museum can preserve that past while inspiring the values needed for the future. The 7 virtues, redefining the museum. And now I have a film for you for your senses.
Jeder Junge, jedes Kind, jeder junge Mann, wenn er was möchte, dann möchte er eine Katana haben, ein japanisches Schwert. Das ist einfach das Erste, was man so haben möchte, und das war auch bei mir so. Anfang der 80er Jahre war es dann soweit, dass ich mir ein Schwert kaufen wollte und auch die finanziellen Mittel dafür hatte. Dann bin ich auf die Suche gegangen und habe auf dem Trödelmarkt am 17. Juni ein schönes Schwert gefunden. Ich finde, ein Museum heutzutage muss interessant sein für die Besucher. Die müssen Freude dran haben, die müssen wiederkommen. Es muss auch mal was Neues passieren. Und deshalb haben wir diese interaktive, immersive Art gewählt, um es der breiten Öffentlichkeit zugänglich zu machen. Es ist einfach ein moderner Weg. Und dadurch wollen wir uns auch unterscheiden zu anderen Museen, die vielleicht die Exponate ausstellen und nur mit einem kleinen Vermerk oder was weiß ich, mit einem Zettel. Das wollten wir alles nicht. Deshalb haben wir uns dafür entschieden, es ganz modern zu machen.
Future meets legend. Thank you for listening.
Not quite the slide I had put in. Sale un poco fuera de proporciones. It's okay. Good afternoon. For us it was an honor to receive the nomination, and it's a great pleasure to be here in your company. I'm Stylianos Pyrgas, the coordinator of Galactica. We are located here in Spain, in the autonomous community of Aragon, concretely in the southern part, the province of Teruel, one of the most sparsely populated provinces in Europe. And when I say we, I mean CEFCA, the Center for Studies of the Physics of the Cosmos of Aragon. We are a professional research institute in the field of astronomy and astrophysics, operating under the auspices of both the autonomic government of Aragon and the central government of Spain. And our mission, well, is to do science, right? And we do that in our primary facility, the Javalambre Astrophysical Observatory. As scientists, though, we have a responsibility towards society. And from that responsibility derives our commitment to science communication, to education, and to outreach work. So, in Arcos de las Salinas, a small village with a population of 105 inhabitants that would comfortably fit in this hall, we have constructed Galactica, our center for the diffusion and practice of astronomy, aiming to bring astronomy closer to the general public, to make it accessible to everyone. Galactica offers a fully interactive audiovisual experience in a rather modern, one might even say futuristic setting, where we invite our visitors to join us on an adventure, exploring and discovering the universe. Our core philosophy is learning by doing. We put particular emphasis on our educational role. We work closely together with educational centers and institutes in all stages of education, from the very young up to and including academic work with university. But, well, as professional astronomers, our real passion lies with observing the sky. And we want our visitors to share in this passion. So, in Galactica, we offer a wide range of observational activities, both day and night time. We want our visitors to have the chance to experience firsthand how it feels to directly observe the wonders of the cosmos. As part of our social commitment, we also want Galactica to act as an ambassador for our region, right? To promote the province of Teruel and do our part in its growth and development. So, quite often, we combine our love for observing with our love for other things, like music, organizing concerts with local and regional artists and groups, and of course, gastronomy. A quite obvious pun, but we fully embrace it with wine and beer tasting sessions from local and regional producers, and we are in Spain. We have to have astronomically inspired tapas exhibitions made with local products. And we keep growing our center, we keep expanding. I know this is a 3D render. It's not ready yet. We are literally in the process of constructing and installing a sensory children's park themed after our own solar system and its exploration. So our youngest visitors get the chance to learn by playing. And I would like to leave you with a little taste of how the experience is to be in Galactica through a short video. Thank you for your attention. Let's see this one.
Hello, can you hear me? Thank you so much. First of all, please accept my great thanks for these 4 fantastic presentations that introduce us into the world of senses: scent, smell, taste, touch, sound. Various senses helps us to experience the everyday life, helps us to experience our life, helps us to experience the environment and the world. And I would like to start with a kind of a general question concerning what does it actually mean in the museum life, in the museum practice, the sense focus or the sense sensitivity. As I pointed in the beginning, we are today living the world a little bit overwhelmed with the sense of vision of our eye. Eye is this tool of enlightenment, and we are now in this postmodern world, so maybe we should go beyond. And the presentations of your museums are perfect in presenting this, crossing the boundaries. So please tell us, what does this sensitivity mean in the museum life in practice? Barbara?
Yeah. Well, do you hear me? Yeah. It creates opportunities. Well, visitors engage more actively in the presentations, so than passive. It means beyond observation towards participation. So it means the visitors, as said, become explorers, and you can touch them more directly by their own senses, which are so human and so individual. That gives us the opportunity with working at the senses.
Okay. Gert?
Yeah, I also think senses can have very various meanings. In the museum, the St. John's Hospital, it's more about feelings. And what's very important is creating the right atmosphere to make a connection with the artworks, with the story of the museum. And this atmosphere can be created by sounds, by lighting, by texture of materials. And in fact, that's what we do. But also, some objects are not meant only to be seen. They are meant to be used, to be worn, to be heard, to be used, in fact, yeah. And then only, if you are in an art museum, it's obvious then the visually is most important. But in many other museums, and we saw many examples today, there was a more interactive relationship with the objects. And that's normal, because cultural transmission doesn't only happen with the mind, but also through the body. And in another museum where I work for, it's a museum about daily life. You can do a lot of things like tasting traditional sweets that are made by a candy maker, wearing clocks. Then you know how to feel how it's walking with wooden clocks, or listening to an automatic music instrument from the 1900s. So if you don't just only see this instrument, it doesn't really, it's no respect for this object as well. Yeah.
I think the senses are a super tool to inspire the audience in a new way and talk to the audience and explain things about the objects, what you can see if you are only looking at it. And it's a great opportunity for us to have a dialogue with the audience and give them a new experience, like at the Samurai Museum Berlin.
Stylianos?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to speak forth when the panelists pretty much covered everything you were going to say. But sensory input is part of being human, right? On the basic level, the first way that we perceive, interpret, and understand the world around us is through sensory input. So we are consciously or unconsciously constantly exposed to it. It's part of who we are. And I do believe that it's a very useful tool for a museum, very useful and versatile tool, if used correctly, as a stepping stone to provoke the second level of stimulation, intellectual and or emotional stimulation that really is the core of what visiting a museum should be and what a visitor should get out of it. And we are fortunate to live in a day and age that we have access to these tools that we can stimulate all the senses. Basically, I think between us here in the panel, I do believe we cover all 5 of the senses to provide a unique experience to our visitors.
Yes, you included...
Can I add one thing? Because I'm thinking now, I saw a lot of examples today of where approach by senses is also used for a more inclusive museum experience. Many museums have handling objects which are used in programs for visually impaired visitors. Also senses we use as well, scents I mean, for people with dementia, because it is a very strong trigger for memory.
Big point.
Yeah, so it's also another way of using the senses in a museum to make it more inclusive.
Make it more inclusive. I was wondering if designing the exhibitions you were focusing on this sense experience. If it was, I guess that in the case of your museum it is quite obvious, but I was wondering if in the case of the other 3 museums it was an issue. While you were dealing with the initial project ideas for the exhibition. Let us start with Galactica.
In our case, as you saw, well, Galactica is primarily an audiovisual experience, though most of the panels and screens are also interactive, so basically we cover three senses, right? That was a conscious decision coming from our background as science communicators and educators. In the field of astronomy and astrophysics, it is a lot easier to transmit the concepts to the public with visualizing them primarily, right? We can sit here and discuss the different types of mounting a telescope and how a telescope mount moves. Perhaps it would be difficult for most of you to follow it, but if I put a video on while I am explaining, it's a lot easier to assimilate the concept. And again, Galactica is an outreach center, right? We don't assume and we don't expect that our visitors have the necessary background to immediately grasp this concept, right? So the audiovisual part, the plots, graphs, pretty pictures, simulations, everything that we include in the museum, it's designed with an educational purpose in mind. And then the interactive part, it was again a conscious decision because we wanted the visit to Galactica to be a participative experience. Basically, in Galactica, the visitor chooses his or her own adventure, right? You have full control over what you actually want to see. And let's face it, for us human beings, if we see a screen with a button, we want to press it, right? It's the first thing we think. I want to press this button, what does this do? So we invite this in Galactica. We encourage our visitors to explore the museum and press the buttons that they are more interested in.
How it was in your case? How it was to go beyond the stereotypes about the other culture?
Yes, we are the one and only samurai museum in Europe, so we are the first one, and it was really difficult because nobody knows anything about samurai. And the question was, how can we talk or present the samurai culture in a way that the European people can interact or are interested in this story, in these values. We are talking about around 1,000 years of history, of Japanese history, and so we created many different interactive stations, from sounds to you can touch, you can interact, to interest different kind of people, different kind of audience, and you can reach every level of knowledge from the audience, and it's always a great experience at the Samurai Museum Berlin. So it was super important for us to open this museum through the senses, through these interactive possibilities.
Bruce. Hans Memling.
Yeah, so I told that the St. John's Hospital want to address to the heart of our visitors. But if you're wandering around in Bruges, in contrary to Teruel it can be a very overwhelming experience, very overstimulated, because you have a lot of visitors, a lot of tourists walking around, guides with umbrellas, horse carriages going, and then you enter this hospital and you want to have the right setting that people can be touched by the objects, by the stories. So what was very important in the scenography was creating this right atmosphere. And I give an example. There was this little area enclosed by curtains, and in this area we display the objects that belong to the sisters for meditation, but also for common rituals. And there was a Christmas crib of the 15th century, and the ritual was that the younger sister took the crib on her lap, and then the other sisters were singing carols and lullabies to have baby Jesus, that he would fall asleep. And, well, if you only see this crib, you don't know all the ritual behind it. So we made an animation to show the ritual, but we also created a soundscape. And the soundscape, we asked Hendrik van den Beerle, he's a composer who's expert in medieval music, and we asked him, search for 15th century lullabies and carols that have a rocking melody which could have been used in this ritual. So he was looking for that, and also it was interpreted by his chant group, Psalentes then, and this soundscape really adds to this experience. Then you have really, again, the feeling of the sisters sitting around the crib. In another place you have the painting I showed, where you see life in the hospital, and there's a dog running around, and there's a cat, and people are getting treated by physicians. So we made a bed just next to it, where you have all the sounds that could have been heard then in the museum. So you can imagine again how it was. Yeah. So sound is very important, creating the atmosphere, also lighting, to have this connection.
In case of sensoria, I have a question from the Slido. Okay. How do you make smells accessible to people who cannot smell?
That is actually a very good question. And I can't answer this at the moment yet. The smell is, well, it comes through one senses, is connected to taste. And if you have lost this sense, it's devastating for this person. We talked to a few. So for example, if you can't smell, so you have a cold or something, you can't find the difference in tasting a strawberry or a raspberry. So that's proven. So you need both senses. And if what we provide is, of course, a lot of knowledge, not by smelling, but displaying knowledge to this fragrance or scent we are providing. So it's on a different level to explore, but nevertheless, as we are focused on the senses, it's tough. But we have had people there who can read and see and try and touch as well. But of course, it's a very important sense. It's not the most important, but a very, very important one for us in living, in enjoying and even disguise, or in connections to memories. So yeah, it's difficult, but the only way is then to display it on a way of words and film, moving images in providing knowledge to the fragrance.
Time flies. We are almost at the edge of our panel, but I would like to ask one more question. Actually, there is also a question on the slide concerning the critical engagement into this very topic of sense use in exhibitions. And I would like to focus on the topic of immersive exhibitions. In last years, there are so many of them. There are also some exhibitions that are based on, let's say, commercial basis. This word immersive, to a certain extent, became a scary word. Some museums are afraid of using technologies, going outside of these very experiences. And my question is how to keep the balance in using those sensors, how to take the best of it and not to go beyond the line that one can find your presentation, your exhibition a little bit too far away.
Well, for us in Sensoria, we have this emerging station, the first one. If it helps to understand the question or the topic, then it's useful and it's helpful to emerge and to understand. But if it becomes an attraction, like in entertainment parks, then we cross the line, because then it's commercial, as you said, but as long as it helps to understand, well, doors are open. Everybody should use it in a conscious way to give it, to use it as a base, not as an instrument.
Yeah, it's the same for us with this closer to memory experience. This high-resolution images we use were made for research, in fact, to help researchers find the more knowledge about the techniques, the material, the details. And in fact, we wanted to use it also for public outreach, that people understand how composition works, perspective works in this works. And also, this experience doesn't replace the original artworks, because they are downstairs. And I saw it with my daughters. First we saw the real paintings, then we went to do the experience, and afterwards they were looking with much more attention and much more eye for details to the paintings again. And that is what our goal is, to help to understand this better. And also there we made a soundscape, also with music from that time, with instruments that were depicted also on the paintings of Hans Memling. So it's not just like some spectacle, but it's a complete concept, trying to get in the setting and getting to understand the work of Memling.
For us too, the historical object is the most important, and we don't touch the historical object. We have a huge respect with that, but this technology can help to build a dialogue with the people, with the audience, with different audiences, and to find new ways to ask questions about the object and to build a dialogue from the museum to the audience, and that's the most important thing for us. But the historical object is untouchable.
Well, personally, for me, the word immersive doesn't a priori have a negative connotation, right? Of course, much like everything else, used correctly, used in moderation. How do you find the balance? Well, it comes with a job description, right? It's our responsibility to find this balance, engaging with the audience, with our visitors, receiving their feedback. From our point of view, the core concept of science communication is a balancing act, right? Between simplifying a concept and explaining it to someone who doesn't have the background necessary to understand it, but at the same time avoiding oversimplifying. You have to find the balance with maintaining scientific rigor, which is what we strive for in Galactica. Most of us are professional astrophysicists, myself included. So it's a trial and error. You see what works, you see what doesn't work. Again, with how we've built our collection, with this ability of the visitor to interact, to choose their content, they can stop the visit at any time, basically. The content is there. We do get very passionate people that spend many, many hours roaming the museum. We get others that do not. They are in complete freedom with how we have things organized. But for us, the immersion comes naturally. The immersion already starts before you even enter the building. Just being outside in nature under our dark, pristine skies to set the mood. And then, well, you observe the sky and the immersion comes naturally. We don't even need to try. Basically, the sky is the protagonist. Galactica just offers a roof over our heads.
Wow. The number of the questions that I would like to ask is only rising, and watching at Slido, I see that this is not only my experience.
We are here until Saturday.
That's what I want to say, that I would like to encourage all of us to ask these questions during the breaks. And, well, yes?
May I have 30 seconds? Professional duty calls 30 seconds to talk about the second major event of this summer.
Okay.
The first one is ongoing, we're in it. But there is a second one in 2 months' time. On the 12th of August, there is a total solar eclipse happening.
What is?
And it is visible from Spain. And as chance would have it, Galactica is in the path of totality. We will be celebrating with a 2-day event, and I will be delighted to welcome you in Galactica and enjoy the eclipse with you.
That's immersion.
That was the best conclusion. Thank you so much. And now it's time for the break.